Hey, welcome to another episode of your friendly Gen Z podcast, Basically Everything. Teens, including us, share our opinions and ideas on issues that our world is confronting. We view these difficulties through different perspectives. Our goal is to inspire teens across the world to evolve with new insights. Without further ado, let's get into this episode.
Hi everyone, I'm Bhavya.
And I'm Richa, and we're your hosts for today's episode.
Today we'll be diving into a topic that many of us may have heard at some point in our lives. Many people around the world tend to feel insecure about their appearance. This is mainly because some people in our society have such strict expectations on what the ideal person should look like. But what exactly are these standards? These influences are surrounded by the idea of what is known as beauty culture.
For those of you who don't know exactly what beauty culture is, as per yourdictionary.com, beauty culture is defined as styles, products, and people associated with beauty and the focus on physical appearances and aesthetics.
Beauty culture possesses many positives and negatives. For example, it helps people express themselves and is constantly expanding over time in different ways, but it can also have a detrimental effect on someone.
I must say, I'm curious how all of these concepts function in the field or idea of beauty culture, which leads me to introduce our guest speaker, who's here to discuss this prominent topic. Please welcome Shanzè.
Shanzè was born in Canada, Mississauga, raised all over Ontario. She often found herself passing the day exploring new forms of art and understanding different cultures. She wishes to pursue a career in the arts to give representation to little girls, the representation she didn't have. She wants the arts to be seen for what it is, a form of expression. Shanzè wants to bring awareness toward beauty culture. We are so lucky to have her with us today to answer our questions, share new information, and help us understand the background of beauty culture as we move forward in life as teenagers.
To start off, how are you, Shanzè?
I'm doing really well today. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. The first thing we'd like to ask you is, where do you think beauty culture started? How did it come of topic of such value in our world today?
Great question. I think that's a very deep-rooted question that can have multiple perspectives and answers to it depending on who's answering it. But I'm one person, and my answer to this would be that I think beauty culture has always been part of our lives, depending on what country we're from, what culture, what era. It's always been there. But I think why it's so prominent and why it's something that we value is probably because we were told to value it. And that a lot of that comes from marketing. A lot of that comes from telling us to buy beauty and to kind of like feel beautiful. And like to feel beautiful is mean you feel successful. To feel beautiful is to mean that you feel happy and that you've achieved something. So I think a lot of that stems from marketing and that we're told to value it so much.
Do you think there's a certain time in a person's life where they first experienced beauty culture? If so, when was the first time you experienced it, and what was that moment like for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think everyone experiences it, whether they're aware of it or not. A lot of it is taking place subconsciously more than it is consciously. And because of that is, once again, I'll go back to marketing. It's not going to always be in your face. A lot of it for me personally, it started in kindergarten, a very young age, that no one should be feeling that kind of pressure or standard to compete with. And it felt it when I felt it, it was when I saw princesses, and when they felt most beautiful was when they were in this expensive gown and everything. And I didn't have that expensive gown, so I felt less beautiful. So a lot of the beginning experiences for me was when I was in kindergarten and I faced that kind of reality that to feel beautiful is to buy beauty, whether that's a product or whether that's an experience or whether and so on. So mine would probably go back way when I was conscious of my awareness, unfortunately.
That's very interesting. For me, it was around fifth grade, and I noticed all the other girls in my class had very short hair that was about shoulder length and very tall legs, like very long legs. Because of my genes, I have very short legs compared to a lot of my other friends and classmates. And I also have very long straight hair. And most of the other kids had very nice, beautiful curly hair. That made me pretty insecure at the time for looking very different.
I think that I've definitely felt different and that beauty was a thing earlier, but I think the first moment that I realized what beauty culture was, I was probably in third grade and I had washed my hair. And I think I just felt really upset and mad that my hair didn't look like model's hair or something because it was thick and curly. And I can't get mad at my hair for existing. So that was a big moment in my life.
What does beauty culture mean to you?
To answer your question, I think we would have to go back to, we'd have to take it apart and first answer, what does culture even mean? Culture is when a group of people take part in an act or in something of value, and that is when it becomes culture. Now, it's hard to define beauty. We can't really take that apart because that is so subjective. So we would jump to what is beauty culture altogether. That would be when people are taking a part in trends and adding their own perspective, their own spin to what it means to be beautiful, feel beautiful, adding onto this kind of you can say unrealistic standard of feeling beautiful. And a lot of it is about trends and this constant change and this constant almost competition to feel more beautiful. And yeah, that's what I would say, is that it's a constant change in trends and competition to feel more beautiful.
In regards to what it means to you, I would like to talk about an article by the National Geographic titled "The Idea of Beauty is Always Shifting. Today it's more inclusive than ever." What are your thoughts on that just from the title?
Oh, that makes me laugh. Mostly because it is definitely shifting. Like I said, that trends are a big part of beauty and why it exists and why it still stays alive. But I would not say it's inclusive, and the reason why that second part to the title feels like it's almost being down my throat. The reason why is because uh, even when you have diversity, uh, it's diverse in a way where you have to be white passing. What do I mean by this? I mean that sure, the person is of a darker shade, but their nose is much more Eurocentric. Sure, they are of lighter skin tone, but their eyes are much wider than where you would if you were going to their back home and you would go to see uh, their natural features without any surgery done. So I wouldn't say that it's more inclusive than ever. I would say it's more challenging and even for people who are of color, POC people, because if they want to give some sort of representation, it's this false idea because that is not representation. That is an impossible standard to achieve while your genetics are trying to push how you naturally look, and then you're altering your face and you're altering how you look, because the way to be accepted is if you check off most of the boxes, and then yeah, sure, you can call that diversity, but not really.
When people have a misconception about beauty culture, do you think that companies may influence their thoughts?
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like companies are like they're our biggest enemy, because it's almost this cult. It's almost this just this huge, this big group working against us, telling us what we should value, what we think we want, and a lot of that goes to, even if we go back to that magazine title, that article, it tells us half the truth, which is it's definitely shifting. There's a fact. Is it inclusive? Wouldn't say so. So a lot of that does stem from telling white lies and half the truth, and showing us kind of diverse people, but not all diverse, like really diverse, and like the rich culture and differences that make us so unique to ourselves. So yeah, that to answer your question.
I love your perspective. So, at what age do you think beauty culture has the strongest impact on people's lives?
Ooh, I think I would have to say teens. And the reason why is probably because we're aware enough we're old enough to be aware of the trends and beauty and what's happening in the world, but we're also not occupied enough to be distracted by it, to ignore it. We are taking that at so much face value, and we're taking that um, we're taking it all in, we're absorbing it because we have so much time, and we're also very well aware, and we're also trying to learn everything, and we think we know everything. So I would definitely say teens is kind of the years where it takes most impact for our mental health, our well-being, all that. Yeah.
Why do you think that beauty culture is so prominent in some areas? What do you think drives the need for it?
I would say that to answer your question, I'd have to answer it in two parts, and that would be, once again, not to sound like a broken record here, but it is marketing. It is when it's shown to you so many times through advertisements, when it's shown to you through media, it feels like you almost have to want it in order to feel happy. And then the second part would be uh, um, depending on your lifestyle, for sure. Because I know a lot of women, for example, say they're not allowed to work. So all they have all day is to look at, all they have is to see what's the new trend, how can they feel prettier, what can they do to their hair, and so on. But when you are living in a lifestyle where you have to earn your bread and you have to go out and you don't have that time, a lot of how much that takes in your day depends on what your lifestyle is like and where you live, for sure.
Can you give examples for some issues or dilemmas regarding beauty culture in our society today? And do you have any advice on how we can overcome those issues?
Um, I would say a huge part would be how social media is probably the greatest and worst thing that has happened to us in the recent years, and how it's cool how we have so much freedom and space to share our thoughts and expression. But because of that, we often don't do the research and like to believe the first thing that we see, whether it's a title of an article or the first thing that catches our eye. So I think there needs to be something put in place to limit those false lies and those untrue articles in order to kind of take control on how beauty culture and beauty industries are taking control of our mental health and our well-being, and kind of making us feel zombies to kind of just swipe our credit cards in order to feel more beautiful. So I would say trying to put something in place in social media or in our search engines where we or something where when you are uploading something to the internet, it is checked through. And I hate to say that because I don't like to mute anyone. I don't like to censor anyone. I like everyone to speak their truth, but it seems like not everyone is here to speak the truth. Some people are just here to get their money and then leave.
So we've established that social media affects beauty culture, but do you have any examples or personal anecdotes that you could share?
I think personally, if we're going to work individually, it's easier to figure out who you're following, know who you're following, know that the influencers and celebrities that you are following are not hiding behind something, and do research. And if we're speaking on individual efforts we can do, we can know who are they promoting, who are they working with, what was their history. So that can definitely limit the power that influencers and celebrities have over us, and companies in general, to know, are they vegan? Are they doing animal cruelty and all that? So that's something we can individually take part, but collectively will make an effort in the long run.
These days, everyone of all ages has social media and spends generous amount of time on it each day. But who do you think is at most risk of the influence of beauty standards, and why do you think that?
I would say, once again, probably preteens and teens, because of the attitude we have is that, oh, we know everything, and just wanting to take control and wanting to believe that everything out there is right. And it's hard to believe that sometimes there are evil companies out there that aren't in our favor and aren't there for our best interest. So I would say that preteens and teens definitely, because we don't like to do our research and because it takes time and it's effort, but it is needed. So I would definitely say the lazy generation or lazy ages is probably preteens and teens that are most at effect.
What about men's experiences with beauty culture? Men's experiences aren't always at the top of the list to talk about, even though they go through the same thing as women.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you brought this point up because men definitely experience a lot of challenges when trying to present themselves according to what is attractive or handsome being a man. I do feel as though, obviously, I'm not a man, I am a woman, but when I see how maybe my brother or my peers or my father are trying to present themselves in this more manly or what is supposed to be perceived as attractive as a man, it can be sometimes challenging, from height to abs to jawline to beard to clean shave to, and then that's also changing rapidly trends of what's attractive and not attractive. I think why men are sometimes muted and why we don't get to hear their perspective goes with them not being allowed to, because we've said that men are emotionless, they don't have a sense, they don't have awareness, they don't have that emotion, they're not sensitive, they don't care. So it's like they are going through these things, but they're not allowed to say that they're not allowed to say that they are going through certain things and they're struggling with the standard. Um, but yeah, they definitely do go through a lot of like trying to be a certain height and trying to look toned and trying to have muscles and everything. So definitely, I would say men experience do go through a suffering experience with beauty culture as well.
Do you have any advice for people who are trying to avoid the influence of beauty standards, and how should they gain security over their own personal image?
You know, I wish there was a copy and paste answer to anyone that's listening, because my journey with beauty culture and the struggles of it and trying to gain confidence wasn't it wasn't a linear experience. It wasn't step one, two, and three, and here we go. I'm feeling better and prettier and more confident than ever. It was very much, okay, I think I like my hair today. And then I go out in public and I'm like, I feel disgusting. Or, okay, I don't feel like an outcast today because of my style or because of my skin tone or whatever. Um, the reality is that you have to just check in with yourself. You have to reflect on yourself. You have to, I don't want to say cut off social media because that's also an extreme, but also don't completely indulge in it. Don't completely immerse yourself into it to the point where everything you value is only coming from these celebrities and not maybe your family's advice. And like sometimes you're not able to see the damage that you're doing to your body or your mental health, and someone as an outsider can. So being able to take everything with a pinch of salt and just constantly reflecting, constantly. And one last thing, you don't have to love yourself. That's not the first step. I think the first step needs to be acceptance of who you are and what you can be. And then loving will come soon after that, for sure. That would be, if I can give any tip and advice, don't try to love yourself, but try to accept it.
How do you think beauty culture will change over the years? Do you think it will still matter to people as much as it does now?
You know what? I can say that what it is right now, it's a trend. It's constantly changing. It's shifting. So I will say, in the coming years, I see it that it will still be very much there. I see that it'll be there will be trends. I don't think it'll matter less. I think it might matter just the same or even more, but I think it'll matter in a way where we're trying to promote self-love, and that's the kind of beauty that I think is going to be shining soon. I think even if the toxic beauty trends that are pushed in our news feeds and all, l- uh, limit, trends will still be there in the face of, like, oh, there's this cool new food item, or there's this new song, or there's this new dressing style method, yada yada, go on. But I think beauty culture will be there. The face of it will change. The purpose of it will change. It'll hopefully change to, this is what it means to be beautiful, to have a beautiful smile, to put out energy, to make people happy, to and things like that, just like positive energy. And I think that's what beauty can be in the coming years.
After learning about beauty culture and hearing so much from Shanzè today, I can see that we have learned a lot about the truth behind beauty culture and how it plays a big part in our everyday lives.
We would like to thank Shanzè, our wonderful guest speaker for this episode, for sharing her experiences with us and allowing us to further knowledge about beauty culture with her help.
We would also like to thank you guys, as always, for stopping in to listen to today's episode. We always appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen, even if it's just for a couple of minutes.
Make sure to stay tuned for our next episode on Asian Heritage Month and anti-Asian racism that will be released sometime in June.
And once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned a lot about beauty culture. Make sure to follow us on our social media accounts and don't forget to check out our website, all linked in the description. Also, please check out canvasme.today.
That's all we have for this episode. Thank you for your time, Shanzè, and everyone here with us. Have a great day.